check the YouTubes just to make sure.
Okay. It is 3, 2, 1. It's the Man Cave Archive. We are in the building, and we're excited to definitely present to you guys just taking it to a whole other level. Now we're doing video. It's webcam right now, but we have bigger goals, obviously. But man, this is a big step for us, right, man?
Yeah. I mean, y'all have seen my face on the channel before. I'm the one who mainly does all of the One Piece review chapter discussions in the live setting. So obviously, Tyson or MIura 28, as most of my friends on YouTube know me as. Obviously, shout out to Virgo, Toddy, and all of them. But yeah, this is our first stream with a new webcam that we got. Today we're going to be talking about Henry Cavill landing his starring role for the new Highlander. I'm talking about the passing of Kentaro MIura, obviously the mangaka or author of Berserk, the manga. And then talking about our E3 predictions, what we believe is going to happen, what could be shown off, things of that nature. So jumping right into it. So our first news story does come from the knowledge of Henry Cavill landing the starring role in Highlander. I get this from Cinema Blend, and then he actually took to his Instagram page to confirm that he was landing it, because a lot of news sites were saying that he was in talks, but he went to his own Instagram page to confirm that he had indeed landed the role. So it says Henry Cavill keeps adding to his list of major franchises he is a part of, from his work as Superman in the DC Extended Universe to his villainous role in Mission Impossible, Fallout, to even Enola Holmes with Millie Bobby Brown. Of course, his Netflix fantasy series The Witcher is still in production, and in between working out for his role as Geralt of Rivia and building his PC gaming, the actor has even found love. Cavill cannot stop landing roles, as he's just been reported to be joining the Highlander reboot. Now the DC EU vet has responded to the news in a pretty cool way. Henry Cavill has confirmed he will be starring in the reboot of the 80s classic Highlander, and he couldn't be more excited. Cavill seems like the perfect fit for the new Highlander film, given his experience with fantasy roles through his work on The Witcher. The highly sought after responded to the news on his Instagram, saying, "I've been a fan of Highlander since I was a lad. From the movies and all of their 80s Queen slathered glory to the TV show with an actor who looked remarkably like one of my brothers, being not shy with swords, and having a director as talented as Chad Stileski at the helm. This is an opportunity like no other. Deep diving into franchise storytelling with all the tools at our disposal is going to make this an adventure I, and hopefully all of you, shall never forget." So, obviously, what are your thoughts on him being the lead character in the new reboot of Highlander?
First off, my natural reaction is it couldn't happen at a better time for this young man. Henry has been going kind of through like the stuff with Warner Brothers for quite a while, and they've really taken a hard line to him, and I'm not quite sure as to why. I don't know what's going on between Warner Brothers and Henry, but all I know is that Henry is an excellent actor. I've watched him since the very first movie I watched him was The Count of Monte Cristo with Jim Caviezel, who would later play Jesus in The Passion of the Christ. I think we've all seen that movie. But when I consider how far he's come, from Tudors all the way over to the Mission Impossible series, even over to the Man of Steel and Justice League, and obviously Geralt of Rivia with The Witcher on Netflix. The guy is an excellent actor. Like, don't let the muscles fool you.
Yeah.
A lot of great actors, they're not as physically gifted as he is.
Yeah, for sure.
But he's an excellent, very, very, very layered actor, and he knows how to play the roles. So I'm excited to see Highlander. That was one of my childhood favorite movies as well, too. Even to the TV series that ran for, 5 or 6 years or something like that?
It ran for a good amount. It was on but one that's probably syndicated on WB. I don't know where it actually originated from.
Yeah. I know they filmed it up in Canada. I know Adrian Paul was part of it, and I know they tried to like have like those little episodes where the movie and the TV series would kind of
mesh together.
Yeah, but you know the way that I honestly look at it is it couldn't happen to a better guy, and I'm excited because I'm hoping that if you're fans, you know how to fix this, right? Like they have a great director in the man who's behind the John Wick series, Stileski.
Yeah, Chad
and
Stileski, his whole production crew.
Yeah, and if that's his whole production crew, because I believe even Longoria is also behind that too. So we're talking about a pretty high quality team that's going to be working on it with a great lead actor. I'm wondering who are they going to pick to play like the villain, or who are they going to pick to play all these different roles that kind of play out in Highlander. I think they could this could be a key opportunity to not only reboot it but reestablish and expand
on it. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think one of the things that we can definitely depend on is that it won't be hokey, especially with someone like Chad, obviously behind the 3 John Wick movies. So obviously the guy knows how to do action. I still haven't watched one of those movies all the way through yet, but I've heard great things about him.
It's a man flick. It's a man flick.
Definitely. And so it'll be cool to actually get to see him bringing those talents to this universe. As my brother said, we don't know who the villain's going to be. Don't even know who most of the cast will be. Obviously, you can go anywhere without the cast. You can get totally wonky because that first movie was wild. You have that 80s dude in there, with his outfit, and he's trying to be the one as well. The first movie had Sean Connery in it.
Oh yeah.
Who else was in there?
They had Christopher Lambert.
Yeah.
But then they had the other man. I forget what his name is. I'm gonna look it up real quick.
Bunch of different people in that.
But he's an iconic voice actor. He's done the voice of Lex Luthor. He's done the voice of. He's played on a variety of TV shows. Played inside, I believe, in the Chronicles of Riddick. He's an excellent actor. And again, one of those guys who's known for a lot, but you
Clancy Brown.
Clancy Brown, yes.
Clancy.
Yes, he's, rock solid pick for him in the original, but it'll be interesting how they tackle it. So
definitely. So yeah, that right there is our talk on that one. Obviously, we don't have to spend a whole bunch of time on it.
Well, we know so little about it.
Yeah, exactly. We know as much as y'all do about it from the headline.
Yeah.
So there's not much that
honestly
that we can really deep dive down into. Obviously, out now on Netflix, you have Army of the Dead. Zack Snyder.
I'm gonna watch that one.
Did that one, yeah. So obviously, if you're a fan of him, you can keep up with that. There's also miniature figurines out for some of the characters from Jujutsu Kaisen. Still haven't read the manga or watched that one, but I might end up picking up the manga.
That's a sleeper. That's a sleeper.
And I'm reading that. Obviously, most of these days I really only read One Piece, My Hero, and a few light novels here and there. But definitely, other news was the whole 20 best-selling comic books in America.
Oh, brother!
Where the Japanese mangas, graphic novels were the number one, were the number 20 best-selling. Were all foreign mangas from different from different creators. Obviously, Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba was obviously in the top with it ending, and just right there just shows where the American comic books are at right now with the whole different nonsense going on with characters, being turned black from white or to Asian.
You see what they're gonna do? They're gonna do Impulse on the WB, and people are already flaming it.
Yeah,
they're already flaming.
I don't even care. Like, just leave it alone.
But it's like
you keep going down these same avenues. It's like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. And you see that Batwoman is getting canceled. Supergirl or Superwoman, whatever that show is called, is getting canceled. Lois and Clark is now well, not Lois and Clark, I think, whatever that show is called on CW.
Is it getting canceled?
It was in hot water because the ratings have dropped. I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it. I heard it was good because it had an interesting take on the dynamic of Superman now having a family and having 2 boys. But so let's be real here. This is a lot of people are probably going to be, because I've heard some of these guys. They'll be like, man, people are just hating on these characters being turned black, or these people. No, guys, it's called authenticity, right? The reason why nobody had a freak out session when Scarlett Johansson was playing, I think, what was her name? Was it Lieutenant?
About, the Major from Ghost in the Shell?
From Major, is because she played the role. Okay, she interpreted the role, whether you like the movie or not, because not everybody's gonna like the anime either. Period. Yeah. Point blank. Period.
It's a pretty weird anime.
Yeah, I mean, it just is. You either love it or you hate it. There is no middle ground, honestly. But the reason why the fans would commit, it wasn't because of race. It was because of how they did it, and they stayed legitimate to the source material. The problem with a lot of these people is that they are saying they want something, but they don't buy it. So let's say, for example, I want Black Batman, but I never go to the comic book store to go buy any comics.
You don't buy the comics. You don't go and watch the movie. So it's like, who are you actually making the movie for?
So now there's a disconnect. So and this is something that always bothered me when I was young, because I love anime, I do. But I remember back when I was much younger, I remember sitting down on a Saturday morning, I think it was Fox, and they had nothing but anime. It was Card Captors, it was Digimon, it was a variety of even low level anime too. And I remember laughing to myself because I said, while it is somewhat decent, the novelty is gone, and you begin to realize these animes have no cultural connection to the United States, like to your audience. There's no cultural connection. And I was like, this anime phase that we were going through was just that. There was a lot of anime that just never got picked up, unfortunately. A lot of companies closed that were doing production. There's only like a handful of them, and some of them are just reforms of older companies, right? So, you had people like Cam Clark, who was already a popular voice actor.
Yeah, very, very popular.
But he was doing anime for a little while, and if you notice, he's no longer part of the scene. And it's not because he's a terrible voice actor. It's just because at one point in time, there was this huge boom of it, and money was just raining out of the sky. And then there came a period where it was like, no, people grew tired of it because there was nothing to keep them there. There's no cultural connection. There's no jokes about Puff Daddy. There's no jokes about corny TV movies. It's like, pay attention. This is what I'm saying. The reason why the Boondocks gets referenced 10 years after the last episode is because there's a cultural connection. There's something that brings you back. When there's no cultural connection, you're going to watch it one good time and it's just a great story. I'm going to watch it one good time and it's just a good story. What has happened with comic books, ironically, especially United States comic books, they have no cultural connection. Your audience is your culture, and you're not speaking to them, so who are you speaking to? The X-Men haven't... Like, the X-Men, the new series of Jonathan Hickman is very, very good. I would highly recommend at least reading House of X and Powers of X. If you have the ability to go do that, go. It's that good. But once you start getting into like some of these other fringe comics, and they're trying to put them on, like when they did, I think they tried to do like the Power Pack or the Warriors.
The Power Pack, the Warriors. They tried to do the Daughter of Starfire. They tried to do, the whole is like all of this like nonsense that character models that no one wants to look at. Is like, come on, I don't. However you feel about it, it's how you feel about it. My personal preference. I did not want to see someone fat and obese running around as a superhero. It's one thing when it's someone like a Blob from the X-Men, right? That's just how his powers work. That's his mutation. It's the difference when this is supposed to be the standout characteristic. It's like they're fat. Okay, what else can they do? Like, okay,
the Blob was immovable.
Exactly.
He was invulnerable.
He was invulnerable. He's immovable. His fat makes him, hard to deal with because his fat can also absorb things, and he can shoot them back out at you. There's only a handful of X-Men who can deal with the mob. Basically any type of person who has psychic abilities, or super strength, super strength, can actually deal with him. So that right there is an interesting way in how you're telling a story about someone's power set. It's different when the character is just fat to be fat because of diversity. And that right there, no one wants to watch. No one wants to read that.
It's like, and without getting into a tangent of it, it's like, guys, C.S. Lewis predicted this years ago. I gotta find the book, but he talked about how we would start making girls look like men and would literally remove femininity and would remove the characteristics of being courageous from men. And in the process, we're going to complain that there are no good men around, all while we're trying to tell them that it is terrible to be a good thing. And I think that that's what's happening with comic books, honestly, is that we're not highlighting what makes the hero a hero. Like, the story of good and evil is as old as time itself. But the reason why it appeals is because there's a nature in us that looks for a savior. And there's a nature in us that understands that there is a thing that's tangible, it's called evil. And these things are in conflict with one another. And it's not about just the powers this person has, but it's about how they overcome it, man.
Yeah.
It's the journey of overcoming. If there's no challenge, there really is no objective to the story. You have nothing.
Exactly.
And that is what's happening here. Look at Kimetsu no Yaiba, Demon Slayer, Demon Hunter. You have a character who is pure. Tanjiro is one of my favorite characters. He's an oldest brother. Man, that warms my heart every time. But the fact that his sister is needing to be rescued, and it's not about just, because in animes, if it's a male and female, hey, you already know what's going to happen. It's going to be on and popping. But the fact that they take a different route, and then they explain each of their characters, and they give them some form of empathy. So that way, to me, I felt like it's like the evolution. It's the true successor of Dragon Ball Z in that way. From the villains of like Frieza, I'm evil for being evil's sake. I mean, to where Naruto was supposed to be it. But I really feel like Kimetsu no Yaiba really delivered on all those fronts. But that's just me on my soapbox.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. That's just me.
It's all good. So that right there is another side topic for us. Also in other news, Batman and Superman have a new series coming out to HBO. You can find that story on IGN. But our next major story comes from the passing of Kentaro Miura, obviously the mangaka of Berserk. He actually had died. By the time it was announced, he had actually already been dead for 2 weeks. We know that Japanese people are very private. They don't, from what I understand as an outsider. Obviously, I'm not a part of the culture, but they're very private people. I know from what I understand from people who've been over there. One of the reasons why manga and anime is so expressive is because as a people, they have been told to suppress,
be reserved.
Their hearts. There's a thing over there called polishing the heart. One of my friends, she had told me about it when she was over there. Is that they're pretty much instructed as little kids, to bottle up your emotions. And so you see a lot of these you see a lot of these guys who like draw and write anime or manga. All their characters are very expressive. Look at Luffy, the whole time, carefree, smile on his face, boisterous. You look at Asta from Black Clover, same way, loud and boisterous. And so they put a lot of their feelings into their art, and so hearing that he had passed away, some of the YouTubers I follow, well, obviously Brago Diaz,
King of
Rogers
Lightning.
Base, King of Lightning. King took it very hard.
I did too, honestly.
The first time I actually saw him, get emotional on stream, to where he had to go ahead and cut it short. But because he's been, I believe it was Zoro fanboy, 124 who got him into Berserk. He also got him into Kingdom, and so seeing this good, seeing one of the guys who like he enjoys reading from the most, seeing that guy died, that it like hit him hard. He obviously had a aortic heart issue. Apparently, he had been dealing with it for a while. There's rumors that he had already pretty much had drawn out the ending for it, and there's a possibility that other famous guys over in Japan are going to finish off his story for him.
Yeah.
Now that he's passed away, and so obviously he was a big influence on not just the Japanese market, but also you've seen a lot of people over here in the West. Different writers, screenwriters, screenplayers have also come out in support, saying that they were inspired by his work. Now that could just be word of mouth, but I don't think anyone would. I would hope no one would do that just for clout.
Yeah.
But a lot of people were inspired by him. A lot of people liked what he drew. Like obviously there was controversy with the one scene in the manga. I forget what it's called. It's during the time. I don't want to spoil anybody who hasn't read it, but there's a scene where it came under fire years later because now we're in this Puritan era of everything has to be pure. But whatever. I don't want to get into that.
Yeah.
But the guy, he definitely inspired a lot of people in his lifetime. Sad to see him go at such a young age.
He was only 54.
54. My dad is. He just crossed like playing to 60, and so I see that, life is very indeed short,
Yeah.
They're saying that, life is but a vapor.
Yeah.
It's here one day and gone the next, and so, all of us who are going to be living past, where like he died at for the next 10 to 15 years, we're going to still be being influenced by his work, the way that he wrote Guts, Griffith, Casca,
dude,
all of those characters, all the backstories that he had, for them.
Rich and lore.
Exactly. I've only read like maybe up to the part of the manga I got through is where Guts beat Griffith in their sword duel. So that's where I got up to in the manga. I was thinking about, going on and reading it all the way through, maybe doing live reactions for it, but also don't want to be a opportunist. He passed away, now it's time to jump on that clout train.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, if you don't get on it, then you are missing viewers, and so it's like
missing opportunities.
What do you do? Well. But obviously, I like pray for the man's soul. Pray for his family as well.
Definitely.
They lost a husband, a father. His extended family, his original family lost a brother, a son, so that right there, it hits very hard.
Yeah.
So.
I'd like to also say that I remember back in, oh goodness gracious, I'm about to completely age myself here. Back in 2001 era, we had gotten the Dreamcast, the Sega Dreamcast, and one of the very first games that we had gotten was Berserk. And by today's graphics and presentation, it's antiquated, right? And because it's been 20 years, what haven't we already updated, textured, better physics, everything. But it was awesome to me because, again, this was a game that had voice actors galore in it. Cam Clark did the voice of, I believe it was Pip, the pixie that went around with Guts. The game was ultraviolet. But it was one of those games that left a very strong impression on me. I love the main character, very masculine, very manly. One of the things I've always loved about just Japanese manga in general is that there are no two ways about it. He is a man, he stands on principle, he stands on what he believes, and you have to respect that as the main character, the main protagonist. You don't have like a bunch of different writers coming in and interjecting their personalities on the character. You know, just a little side, like little bunny trail. I remember recently you had, I believe it was Scott Snyder, Frank Miller, and a couple other major writers who've written for Batman through the ages. But only one person on that panel spoke of Batman as if he was already established as a character without him.
Yeah.
And that was Frank Miller.
Yeah.
And, you know, my heart hurts a little bit over Kentaro Miura, not because I was just a big fan, but because I look at the amount of impact he had on people's lives. And I look at from, if he impacted people who he was just basically passively touching their lives, how much more of an impact and how much hurtful is it for his wife, kids, brothers, sisters, co-workers, like people who truly may have loved him and really appreciated his genius as a storyteller. And from that I glean, man, live your life as if every day is your last. Do everything you can to squeeze every bit of joy out of it, because nothing is guaranteed, y'all. Like, nothing's guaranteed. Rest in peace, Kentaro.
Yeah, just a side note, the manga has been selling out, so if you are trying to collect it right now, on Amazon, the steel books that they have, they're going for like $44, $45. A lot
Them
of
things were going for $25 just a few weeks ago.
But obviously because demand is going up, they've increased by like 100%.
Yeah.
In some areas, some are selling them for like 80. So obviously, it's going to be like that for a while, probably the next year or two, because now they're going to be collector's items.
Yeah.
You know, with this guy passing away. So definitely, if you are or close to a manga, to a comic book store, manga shop, and if you want to get involved with it, go on and try and get on that as soon as possible. We know Dark Horse Comics have been the one releasing the set collection hardcovers for it. So obviously, as I said,
and I warn people, because we got some friends of ours who are family people and are a little bit more conservative. If you plan to endeavor to investigate about Berserk, I would suggest you do a Google search first, because this is a strong M rating.
Yeah, it's very strong. Very strong.
The dark side is strong with this one.
Yeah, so that'll be our talk on Kentaro. Obviously, his passing is sad, but again, praying for his loved ones and everyone involved with him. Our last topic is going to be on E3. What are we expecting for that? Just saw news today that apparently Corey Barlog has come out and said God of War Ragnarok will be a PlayStation 5 exclusive. This will not be on the PlayStation 4. So maybe that's why they're pushing it out a year, to make sure consoles are actually in the market for people to buy. Because again, we know that most of the console buying has come from scalpers. We know that in holiday season, they said that they were able to secure, I believe, upward of 50,000 consoles. I don't know, through the holiday season, I believe the console sold over 1 million. So, but with recent numbers, they've gone up again because bots are just on there collecting all the consoles. So, unfortunately, you still do have that going on. And Sony did announce that the PlayStation 5 will probably still be hard to come by even through 2022 or until 2022, the first quarter, which is going to be March of next year. So, obviously, you have that going on. But yes, E3 predictions. What do you expect from all three major console makers, Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft? And then what do you expect from some of these, big time publishers and game makers? Obviously the Capcoms and Ubisofts, who recently announced that they're going to be going more so free to play, which just means an increase in microtransactions. But
basically.
What are your thoughts on them?
I think it's So I think there's a couple things we got to consider, and it was something I thought about the other day, even as far as going back to Sony, but also bringing them into this because it all factors in. With the chip shortage being what it is, I believe the chip shortage is more so linked to COVID. And the reason why I say I believe it's more so linked to COVID because it's kind of like I'm in real estate, right? So we're looking at it from the standpoint that we have a shortage in lumber, but the shortage in lumber is not because we don't have enough trees. The reason why is because during much of 2020, we shut down production on getting any of this stuff out there. So we've got a bubble of production that's out there that's not going to match what the market is asking for. And that's why there's not as much supply as the demand is off the chain. Yeah. And so I think that's exactly what happened because these developers, they depend upon everybody coming to the office. COVID, video games were not a priority. Yeah. And you and I both know that, don't get me wrong, you have guys who are committed to getting the work done, but the minute they hear something will allow them to take off weeks at a time and potentially get money, well, it doesn't matter. They're going to ask for that anyway.
I mean, the game makers maybe, but the billion-dollar companies.
Oh yeah.
It matters to them. We know we know that games have passed up the movie industry in terms of revenue. Passed them up a long time ago, and similarly, I was also about to pass up the music business as well.
Yeah.
So it's prime time.
Yeah.
But yes, for actual developers, people having to work 50 or 60 hours in front of a desktop. No. Those people want to be home.
Now, I think that I will say this too. I think that what is going to happen out of this is that it's going to create a small bubble. And I predict we're not going to go back to having normal releases for video games until about the end of 2022, first quarter 2023. Because we have a lot of backlog that's exactly why I believe Nintendo was constantly funneling out all these video games. And now they're talking about the virtual console of the N64. But notice how they've suddenly stopped talking about that. And that's why, we'll just make a virtual console on the Switch, because guess what? Production's going to be lower, and you can get the base to grow even further, and they're not having as many problems producing the Switch as Sony is and Microsoft is producing the Xbox and PlayStation 5. Yeah. So my prediction is that I think that they're going to, if they're smart, in my opinion, what I would do, I would start selling 2022. I would not try to sell 2021 anymore. 2021 is gone. Yeah. It's already gone. If it ain't coming out in December, it ain't coming out at all this year. Yeah. So you need to start selling next year. You need to give people hope. Hope. You need to start giving people hope for next year in their consoles in 2022, 2023. I almost be saying that, and it just depends upon what the production team is, because if it's Sony's team, they can throw as many people as they want at it. Yeah. They got to push that rock up that hill, and that is what's going to hurt them. So wouldn't it all surprise me if we don't start seeing games begin to gradually come out on a month-by-month basis until 2020, somewhere mid to late 2022, and then we start seeing more games come with the production. But I'm going to predict this too. That free content game, that microtransaction gaming, that is going to be the biggest thing, because you got to think about it. Fortnite is not that complex. No. It's, forgive me, and I know people look at me sideways when I say this, but to me, when I look at Fortnite, I see something that's just a few bars above Minecraft, honestly.
That's actually what one guy coined it. He says Minecraft with guns. I mean, obviously, the appeal of Fortnite is obviously the base game is just, you can just look at it as a base game of, shooting, building, setting traps, things of that nature. But then when you get a top tier player like obviously Tfue
or
Ninja and them, when they get involved with it, obviously they take the base game from a mediocre level to a higher level, because now you create a skill gap. Yeah. And so. Yeah. And then that game just took off because of guys like that got into the game. I mean, Ninja played with Dog and Drake. Like, come on. He played Fortnite with Drake, the biggest rapper of our age right now. So,
unfortunately,
you know, and so, obviously, yeah, I would say with predictions, obviously, I think on PlayStation 5, Horizon's coming out. Because Sony did come out and said that game is still slated for 2021.
Yeah.
And then plus it's going to be on PlayStation 4. So you're going to have that install, even if it's a bunch of scalpers buying the 5 and not necessarily games for it. You will have it to where that install base on the PlayStation 4, people who simply won't upgrade right now, that's another game for them to get.
Yeah.
I say on Nintendo side, I definitely expect to see the sequel to Breath of the Wild. Finally showing off, because Aonuma did say that information about the sequel to Breath of the Wild will be revealed later on this year. So obviously, he said that last year at the Game Awards, and so obviously we're waiting to get an update. Last time we saw that game was 2018, I believe, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Or 2019. No, I think it was 2018 when we saw it. When they announced its sequel. And so obviously we've been waiting patiently for like that, seeing where our next adventure is going to take Link and Zelda, and possibly the revival of the King of Evil, Ganondorf himself. You also have it to where so obviously I expect to see that Metroid Prime 4. Hopefully we get to see. There's a rumor that Mercury, the guys who did the updated Samus Returns game on the 3DS, they're working on another 2D side scroller Metroid, rumored to be Super Metroid, the remake to that one. And so you have that Pokemon Arceus, legend of that game with basically built upon with the Breath of the Wild engine. That game is in development, so obviously waiting to see the update on that. Black and White, I believe, is getting a remake. Or was it Diamond and Pearl? I forget, but I know one of them are getting a remake coming up soon. Obviously, then on Microsoft's part, finally going to get that update for Halo. That's Halo 6. Infinite, as they're calling it, the game that look like a PlayStation, look like a Xbox 360.
Hey, y'all stop picking on. Listen,
that game looked terrible. Those brutes look like monkeys.
But see, okay. But let's be real here. This is where we begin to see the separation of the men and the boys. And what I mean by that is you have a company like Bungie who created Halo.
Yeah.
And then you have a company like Microsoft who just bought the rights to it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's cool. You can go get a variety of developers that are pretty talented to go and make this game if you really want to. But the problem is Bungie has evolved. Halo has not.
Yeah.
Bungie has taken on a Destiny. They're one of the biggest video games out there on the market. So they weren't just a one-trick pony. And that's what, to me, hurts Microsoft in the long run. Because they always do that.
Yeah.
I'll buy your car, but I'm not going to keep the driver. I'll buy the plane, but I won't keep the pilots.
Yeah.
I'll take over the deli, but I won't keep the cooks. Like, these guys are, I often, they remind me of Richie Rich to some degree. Just too rich to think conventionally. Mm-hmm. Microsoft's biggest problem was they should have not only bought Bungie, they should have signed the guys to a 20 video game contract, which would have been the life of Bungie's original staff if you really think about it. 20 video games, and we just sign them to this contract, and we say we'll pay you whatever the market is, and just you have the money to do it.
Yeah, that game, Destiny would have been a console seller. I would have probably stayed exclusive to Microsoft. At that point,
we never have Destiny because Destiny would have been exclusive to Microsoft.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I would have stayed an Xbox exclusive guy. The reason why I jumped ship, obviously, their DRM talks in the beginning of the Xbox One was like it was a no go for me. I said no. Obviously, they reneged on that and went ahead and but you had to download a patch to even get that off of it. And then
we had the original Xbox 360 first, then the PlayStation 3 was added, went straight over to the PlayStation 4, and now it's in the PlayStation 5. And the reason why the Xbox One and the S or whatever the heck, it's because everything that was already on those consoles were already on Sony's consoles.
Yeah.
So
I mean, now that they bought out
Bethesda,
I know they said games that are already third party are gonna probably just stay third. So obviously the next Doom is probably going to be on all systems.
Yeah.
Because that right there makes money, so there's no point in keeping that exclusive.
Yeah.
But Starfield has been announced to be a console exclusive.
Well, I think honestly, and this is something too. You asked me. I see Microsoft eventually just becoming a big publisher.
They could, but again, the Series X or X Series, whatever you want to call it, it's selling just as well as the PlayStation 5. So you can't find that on American shelves either. No. You can't find it on European shelves either because it's getting bought up too. So again, both consoles suffer from not having actual PlayStation 5 games or Xbox Series X games on it. Period.
They look like Xbox 360 games.
And luckily that was just a demo of Halo Infinite. That wasn't the actual game, but it was just surprising to see someone as storied because a lot of 343. Has it, but what's going on? Our actual brother is on there, is in the chat. So what's up, Thomas? See you soon.
It was good.
See you soon. But yeah. So obviously excited. Obviously there's a rumor that there's going to be another Tomb Raider game coming from Crystal Dynamics that might be a timed exclusive for the Xbox.
Yeah.
We know that Final Fantasy, all those games are pretty much timed exclusive for PlayStation 4 and 5 because Final Fantasy Remake still hasn't hit Xbox yet. And that's been over a year. That game came out last March, I believe.
Yeah.
And so that hasn't come on the Xbox yet. Now, Integrate, the one with Yuffie, is coming out pretty soon. That DLC is coming out for it. And so, you have a lot of games. Forspoken is seemingly also going to be another time exclusive.
Yeah.
For PlayStation. Even Final Fantasy 16 is seemingly going to be another time exclusive.
Yeah.
For PlayStation. So it was smart of Microsoft to buy out Bethesda because you never know. The next Fallout game, Fallout 4, Fallout 5, that might just be Xbox exclusive. Now you create competition because a few months ago. Pretty much last year, you would have thought, okay, Microsoft might be moving over to just straight up publisher because they were putting, Cuphead came out on the Switch.
Yeah,
they were
Banjo-Kazooie made an appearance on Smash.
Exactly, and so you're thinking, man, they might be moving to a straight up role as a publisher, but with them buying out Bethesda and how much money they spent, I think that was like $7 billion, $10 billion, like that right there was no small feat. Excuse the dogs outside, but that right there is big news, and so definitely excited to see what happened. Obviously, as we said, God of War seemingly is going to get pushed back to next year, but it's going to be a PlayStation 5 exclusive, not going to appear on the 4. Horizons more than likely coming out this year in the holiday season. Waiting on that sequel for Breath of the Wild. Metroid Prime 4. What do you possibly see as maybe a sleeper game getting announced? Obviously people have been waiting for Resident Evil 4 to be remade. Capcom said that they were going to remake that, to reimagine that game. So do you think that one will be shown off this year at E3?
I'm not gonna lie, man. Resident Evil 4 is probably the least remake I look forward to.
Exactly, yeah. I
because
agree.
the first one is still the one on the GameCube, the one on the PlayStation 2 that was at the end of the PlayStation 2's life that really could have been a PS3 game because the game looked that tremendous.
Yeah.
The game that could have been that literally has been a genre creator, basically. That game, to me, I don't understand the purpose in going back and remaking it unless you plan
It's a money grab. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the same thing with what Sony's doing with The Last of Us, how they're already remaking the first Last of Us game.
Yeah, but
only after 8 years of it being out.
Remake it, but I think I'll remake it with the stuff that kind of killed the franchise, because they're not even talking about doing a sequel to the last one.
Well, I mean, as we talked about in that one conversation, Neil Druckmann did say that they have an outline for Part 3, but right now they have to make a choice between making the next Uncharted game or or going back to Jak and Daxter. So
you mean, you know what? I'm gonna leave that right there, because there's a lot of common sense that's being missed here.
Yeah.
You know, if you're successful, then what you do is you expand the team so that way you can make 2 at the same time.
Well, they used to make so the first time they had a producer was Uncharted 4. You know, that last game, because before the Naughty Dog team has never had producers. Uncharted 3 and The Last of Us were made side by side.
Yeah.
But because of the scope of Uncharted 4 and the scope of The Last of Us Part 2, they said The Last of Us Part 2 took them 7 years to make. And so, and then Uncharted 4, I believe Uncharted 3 came out 2011, 2012. And then Uncharted 4 came out 2015. And so, no, I'm mistaken. It was like 2016, I think Uncharted 4 came out. I'll have to go back and look.
When did the original Last of Us come out then?
2013. I said it's been 8 years since it came out June of 2018.
And then didn't they do like
not 2018, 2013.
And didn't they do like a slight update on it?
They remastered it when the PlayStation 4 first came out.
Yeah.
So they had the remaster on there, and obviously, I mean, as I've said before, I don't want to get back into that conversation too much.
Yeah.
But if The Last of Us Part 2 is selling as well as people are telling us it sold, then where's the Game of the Year edition?
Yeah.
Because they'll tout the sales of God of War 4 or just God of War. That game sold, I believe, 18 million. The original Last of Us sold 15 million and up. So it's like, where are the sales for Part 2? But again, I don't want to get into that conversation.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so I know Devil May Cry came out in 2018, so we could possibly see a sequel to that, at least announced, to Devil May Cry 5. There could also be a sequel announced to a few other games as well. So we'll see what E3 2021 has to offer. Obviously, it's going to be hype. It's coming out. I believe E3 is going to be broadcast next month on the 13th of June. Do that whole weekend. There's usually going to be a whole week. So Monday is kind of just a press conference dates.
Yeah.
And then Tuesday through Wednesday is when they do all the showcases. And then by Thursday to Friday is just kind of a wrap up of what it was all announced. So obviously the sites that you can check out for like basically 24-hour coverage is going to be, a IGN, Game Informer, Game. What's that stuff called? GameSpot. You can check out all those websites.
Which is it's still kind of crazy when you consider that for all of the expansion that the video game consoles have, the market has kind of taken a very skewered view on getting things done as well too.
Yeah, I mean, so you obviously have indie developers, obviously Game of the Year.
Yeah,
one of the Game of the Year candidates last year, and The Last of Us pretty much swept the whole deal. Hades was one of those games that was in the Game of the Year's talks. So you have a lot of indie games, and then you obviously have the big team games. Ubisoft, EA,
which is now costing about $100 million to make a game.
Yeah, so you have a lot of those, guys still in the market. Obviously, Beyond Good and Evil. Whenever that sequel, we seem to get an update every 3 years about that game.
Honestly, though, with Jade, the only reason why I'm not quite sure they're even onto that anymore, because I remember not too long ago they had it was the Legacy of Kain. When there was Legacy, it came Black Sun. It was something like that. And it was a good-looking game for the PlayStation 4. But somebody had the courage to actually take the game and put it on the internet and just show what they were working on and they decided to cancel. And they were deep in production when they decided to cancel. It wouldn't at all surprise me if they decided to shelve portions of it. Because with Jade Raymond no longer being there...
Well, she wasn't man.
But I don't think he's even there anymore, is he?
No, he's still there. He's still responsible for the development of that game. I mean, every time we get an update, the game looks incredible, but it's like... It's one of those games where it's like, okay, you're either going to release... It's getting the Final Fantasy 15 treatment. A game that was announced like 9 to 10 years before it actually came out.
Well, make sure you throw Final Fantasy 7 in there too, because I remember there was a trailer for when the PlayStation, when PlayStation 3 first came out.
And then it didn't come out until last year, which is like 14 years in development.
No, we didn't do that.
They didn't actually start developing it until like 2016, but that's neither here nor there.
No, you were developing it then. You got stuck. Because let's be honest here. Let's call it what it is.
Tetsuya had his hands on everything, so I was like, you're pulling the guy here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah, and plus, Sony wasn't doing the numbers they were supposed to do because they did something incredibly stupid at the time.
$600 machine, like, come on.
When the market wasn't ready for a $600 machine at the time.
Still not ready for a $600 machine, which is why the PlayStation 5 came out at $500, because they knew that as much as people are playing games because of COVID going on, you have a lot more time at home. There's still no vindicating spending $600 on a console. No. Yes, does it have a 7-year lifespan, if not more? Of course. Look at the PlayStation 4, still selling into this year. Still games coming out on it into this year. Came out 2013, so you're talking about 8 years of a lifetime. You know, that's a good bang for your buck. That's a good investment, because you could have got the Wii U and spent $300 on that, and it was done within 2 years. Yeah. So you know, obviously you got a good bang for your buck with that $400 machine. But you know, again, no one's ready to spend $600 on the console. People have a hard time justifying spending, you know, $400 to $500 on the 3080 processor for for a CPU. So you know, definitely, even with games going up to, you know, $70, again, it's rumored that Returnal did not sell all that well. So that could also be a reason why some of these games are going to push back, because again, people are not ready to part with $70 for a game that they're probably just going to play once. I mean, as great as some of these games are, I mean, I've been playing Resident Evil Village a lot, so it was obviously worth his $60, but there are not a lot of gamers who play games more than once.
I think one of the big mistakes that companies like Sony and them make is that, because I'll tell you, I saw Returnal, and while the character models look decent, the graphic presentation.
Yeah, I would say with Returnal is obviously the overall that they spent much more of the time.
Yeah, it looked honestly to me like a PlayStation 4. Like middle of the generation PlayStation 4 game.
Now it's particle effects of that PlayStation 5.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
But we're talking about character models. We're talking about presentation. When you look at a PlayStation 5 game, even though I recognize that it's still a PlayStation 4 game, but when you look at how Spider-Man is presented, where they showed how you go from the inside of going to the outside in an instant. When you look at and even though I didn't like, there were certain aspects of the Spider-Man game, just watching you play, I didn't too much care for. Yeah. But it's a different, it's a decent experience. But just like the level of detail to it, just those aspects, and two, it's Spider-Man, right? Yeah. So, you know, Returnal, I think that a lot of developers, and they spend so much money on these projects that, like, for example, I don't even think that No More Heroes has a $10 million budget, and you can tell.
Oh, it doesn't need one. You know, the type of game that it's going after, the type of gamer it's going after, is not a $20 million, $50 million video game. Even Breath of the Wild, I don't even believe that game was even that expensive to make. Yeah. Yes, it has a gigantic overworld. It has a bunch of different. It has all three dragons. It has landmarks and things of that nature. But do I believe Nintendo spent anywhere close to $50 million to make that game? No.
No.
Did they spend that much to make Mario Odyssey? No.
No.
It's not that it's just because it's simple, but because that's not the type of gamer that they're going after.
Yeah.
Of course, a Call of Duty is going to be 80 million, 100 million, but they make that back the first day the game's out.
Yeah.
So even Rockstar, they announced that it took them $200+ million to make Red Dead Redemption 2, but that game sold. What is it? 10 million copies on the first day.
Well, it's
like it doesn't matter.
It's like, but I also feel like it's so there's so much more. There's so many layers to this. Mm-hmm. Like Zelda in sales is bigger than those two games we just mentioned. But here's the problem: Zelda is not that type of game.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
It's now the day that, and I'm gonna be honest with you, the day that Miyamoto is no longer making video games over there. The day that Aonuma is not making video games over there. The day that this generation, that's basically been from the 90s, really from the late 70s to early 90s and onward, because Miyamoto's been with Nintendo for what, 40 years now? 40 plus years? The day those guys are gone and they end up bringing in cats who grew up on a PlayStation 2 and 3, bro, it's going to be a different ball game altogether. They're going to keep the Breath of the Wild. They're going to keep the keep the creativity.
Yeah.
But bro, when I tell you the voice acting, the camera's angles, hiring professional directors,
the mocapping, all
dude,
that stuff.
It's gonna be
go to
nuts.
A different level, obviously, yeah, because they're an old school generation, and obviously they didn't. Miyamoto and Aonuma didn't even direct Breath of the Wild. They were just basically in executive roles. It was a guy who did, I believe it was Galaxy, who did Breath of the Wild. And then the guy who they had do Skyward Sword was the one who did Mario Odyssey, or directed those games. And so they're obviously, because they have announced that they're trying to pass it on to the next generation because they can't keep on doing it. Obviously, they're getting up in years, and more than likely they're probably at an age where they want to spend time with their like wives and their kids and grandkids.
Yeah.
And so, it's kind of like Oda with like One Piece. He's been talking about how like he wants to go on in the series within the next 5 to like 6 years, or he said he would like to, but then he alludes to with the scope of the story, he's probably not going to be able to to actually end it within that time frame.
No, he won't.
And so obviously, me and they both have said that they would like to step away, but then their creative parts, of their brains get to going, which is why we got the sequel of Breath of the Wild, because they were trying to do things as DLC, but then the scope just kept getting bigger and bigger. They were like, man, let's just go on and do
this. What if we do
exactly?
That?
They were like, man, let's just go on and do a sequel. And some of the original concepts that got scrapped for Breath of the Wild are now going to be implemented in Breath of the Wild sequel, to where they wanted to do a concept of a floating castle for Hyrule Castle. Well, in the trailer, you saw the castle lifting off the ground, and in the sequel for like Breath of the Wild, they wanted to do something with Link's arm, have his arm transform. In the trailer, whatever that glowing hand is possesses Link. So a lot of those concepts that they wanted to do for Breath of the Wild are now going to be in Breath of the Wild sequel. So it's definitely going to be good. I definitely expect to be talking about this E3 for the next few years. I know some folks are saying that this is going to be 2004's E3 all over again with that first reveal of Twilight Princess. This is going to be E3 2006. Some are saying it's going to be E3 2008. With like some of those games that came out that were announced at that time. So definitely looking forward to it. Definitely excited to see what each major brand is going to be doing for this year's E3.
Yeah, it's the E3 this year has the potential, because of the lack of developers or the lack of content that's really out there. And it has the potential to be something humongous, and I'm just looking forward to it. Everything from Nintendo with the Legend of Zelda series, Pokemon Arceus, and just all these different games. Sony with God of War, for goodness sake. Mm-hmm. And I do believe they're going to have some I think they're going to have some cards we haven't seen, because the Samurai game that came out, they've been really, really quiet.
Oh, yeah. It was Sucker Punch.
Yeah.
With Ghost of Tsushima.
And that game, to me, in my opinion, that game is too good not to see either some real DLC or some immediate or some immediate
sequel.
Yeah. And I know they're deeply steeped in it, because the thing about Sucker Punch is they developed the Infamous series, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was them.
And the only thing that bothered me about the Infamous first one to the sequel is that it had two different tones. They didn't match. So I think that they're going to correct themselves and create the next one, the Ghost of Tsushima, and they're going to make it, and they're going to be like, we've got to keep a certain tone that respects what the fans are looking forward to seeing. But I know it took them a long time to make that treasure.
Yeah,
so I don't expect them to roll it out there.
Was originally announced in, I believe, 2016 or 2015.
Yeah.
And it didn't come out till last year in 2020.
Yeah.
So, but since they already have something to build off of, obviously sequels never take as long as the initial. If you remember, Ocarina of Time was originally announced in 94, 93.
Oh my goodness.
And then came out in 98, and then right the next year, Majora's Mask was out.
Yeah.
So, because they already had a great template. All they had to do was get it out, but then you saw that from 99 2003, we didn't get Wind Waker, so obviously that was a 4-year gap, and then since then there have been when Wind Waker to Twilight Princess 3 years, and then Twilight Princess to Skyward Sword 5 years, so and then from Skyward Sword to Breath of the Wild it was 6 years.
Yeah.
So obviously that just keeps on going up. So again, definitely excited for E3. Tell us some of y'all's predictions in the comments below. If that's all, this has been another episode of the Man Cave Arcaves podcast.
Oh my goodness, and with video too.
This time, so obviously leave a like or a dislike, comment. Obviously that helps out with the YouTube algorithm.
Please share.
Exactly, share it as well. That helps getting the channel noticed. Any type of interaction is beneficial. This has been a great talk with y'all. See y'all soon.
Later.